Welcome everybody to our August council meeting. Item 1, the opening. In accordance with Weddin Shire Council Code of Meeting Practice, this meeting will be recorded for the purposes of audio-visual live streaming via Council's website and Facebook page. Those in attendance are asked to refrain from making any defamatory statements and comply with all relevant Weddin Shire Council codes, policies, procedures at all times. 2, acknowledgement of country. The Weddin Shire Council would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people who are the traditional custodians of the land. Weddin Shire Council would also like to pay respect to the elders both past and present of the Wiradjuri Nation and extend that respect to other Aboriginal Australians who are present. 3, acknowledgement of service. We honour our service personnel who have sacrificed their lives in defence of our freedom, peace and prosperity. We acknowledge all of our frontline workers and volunteers who each day provide our essential and non-essential services, especially those within our Weddin Shire local government area. Attendance and applications for leave. I believe we have one apology from Councillor Cook, and she also is requiring a leave of absence. So we're going to move her in a second. Move Councillor Diprose, seconded. Someone second for leave of absence. Councillor Frame seconds that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Well, it's not granted by me. I haven't come across this one before.
That's, it's allowable in the Code of Meeting Practice,
Okay.
as long as it's reasonable.
Okay, confirmation of minutes. Would someone like to move and second that we accept the minutes from the July meeting on the 18th, taken as read and confirmed? Moved Councillor Parlett, second Councillor McKellar. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. Disclosures of interest. Would you like to?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. In relation to myself, Noreen Brew as General Manager, item 16.4, in relation to the General Manager's performance review, I'm obviously the person reviewed from an annual basis. It's pecuniary interest, it's significant, yes, and I will be leaving the chamber. Councillor Jan Parlett, in relation to late agenda item 10.5 with the Henry Lawson Festival bank account, description of interest is committee member, Vice President, it's non-pecuniary, it's significant, no, and Councillor Parlett will be leaving the chamber. Item 11.4 in description of interest is in relation to the committee, as a committee member of the NAIDOC committee. It's a non-pecuniary interest, it's significant, no, and you will be leaving the chamber. Item 16.5 in relation to the Code of Conduct complaint, the final investigation report. Description of interest is witness, in brackets statement, pecuniary, no, significant, no, and you will be choosing to leave the chamber.
Thank you. Councillors, I'd just like to remind everybody that a conflict shouldn't be used as a way of getting out of voting. It's not accepted. Just want to remind everybody of that. Item 7, public forum. We have nil public forum, I believe. Item 8, Merrill Minute. Merrill media release for the end of the term. It's a fairly long document there, councillors. Could I have someone move? Second, we note that. Move Councillor Best, seconded Councillor Kanar. It's just to do with things that the council has achieved over my term, community resilience, culturally rich, vibrant, inclusive community. These are just the headlines. The events, light up the night, the local economy, obviously the Main Street beautification, pets and animal control, the cat desexing and that sort of thing, road construction, infrastructure. We all know what sort of the trouble we've had with that over the last 3 years. Tourism, rebranding of the Weddin website, the VIC centre and such, the advocacy of the roads funding, advocacy of cost shifting in local government, which is obviously a big issue in my time and will be a further issue as we go forward. Advocacy on rural health outcomes. So that's the basis of it, councillors. All those in favour of accepting that, Merrill Minute?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you, councillors. Item 9, notices and questions with notice. We have nil there. Item 10, the General Manager report. 10.1, State of the Shire, end of term report. We have moved and a seconder for that. Move Councillor McKellar, seconded Councillor Kanar. Thank you. General Manager, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Our State of our Shire, or sometimes councils refer it to as the end of term report, is now presented. It's still a working draft. I do want to take the time to acknowledge the councillors because you have participated in a couple of workshops to help us formulate this State of our Shire report. It provides a baseline in terms of how we actually travelled against our community strategic plan and passes on some, I guess, words of wisdom over to the next council in terms of challenges and opportunities that the next council term can consider. At this point in time, it's just for you to endorse the contents in the draft because it will actually be the new council who will adopt or endorse the final report. Did anyone have any comments? Or?
Just a comment. I have noticed a couple of things. What's the best way for me to give that feedback?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. If you wanted just to email it through, we're still making amendments on it. Yeah.
Okay, council. So the recommendation is, one, we endorse the contents of the draft State of the Shire report, and two, note that the State of the Shire report will be formally presented to the second council meeting of the newly elected council. All those in favour? It's carried. Thank you, councillors. Item 10.2, draft donations and in-kind contributions policy. We've got a move and seconder. Move Councillor Best, second Councillor Parlett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This now proposes a draft donations and in-kind contributions policy. We are proposing that it will replace our community support project policy. As councillors are aware, you receive applications almost every single month to consider. It's a lot of an administration burden on our volunteers and our community groups that have to put in an application. It's an administration burden of the processing, of putting it to the council, and then also having the creditors clerk get involved and people managing spreadsheets and all of that sort of stuff. What we're proposing now is a streamlined process that our community groups are actually pre-approved, so they don't need to write to us every single year to actually ask for the same items. And then by having them on the pre-approved list, we just ask them to help us equip the process to make sure that if we gave them a cash donation, how it was actually spent for that purpose. I acknowledge that a lot of our community groups ask for the same thing pretty much every single year, but if there is a variance to, say, one year they might ask for portaloos and a cool room, but then the next year they want that plus a donation, then that donation aspect will just become a separate application. There's still unrestricted funds within that vote for that purpose that's still left over. I'm proposing that once the policy goes out for public exhibition, that we actually write to our community groups to let them know that they are part of the list. But I acknowledge also that just in a pre-briefing before that there is a couple of groups that are missing in terms of the town band and the guides and the scouts. And I acknowledge that they're with the Weddin nursery as well. We've just left off the percentage with the rates, which should be the 25%.
Can I just ask a question about those with the rates? So what normally happens is the rates issues are the rates notices issued, and then they've traditionally then written to us and asked for the 25%, whatever that is. Then that a cheque or a payment then goes to their account. So under this regime, we sort of know that 25% is going to apply. So does that mean the rate notice comes out with the deduction of the 25, or how does that actually work?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it will have to be a donation still. So it doesn't actually take it off the 25% off the actual rates notice. Okay, so it's pretty much at the same time as the rate notice is issued, then the donation is made. But they don't have to come back until the end of the year when they say, okay, in our newsletter we acknowledge council. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Just with the policy that say it's done taking 25%, it's taken straight off the notes, off the rates.
No, I think you said...
I think it does say in the policy it's automatically attributed to the rates.
Okay, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, I will have to take that one on notice. I don't recall that aspect of it being in the policy, so I'll have to reread that, and I'll clarify when we write to those organisations in relation to the rates. I'll make sure that there's a specific paragraph relating to it.
Well, I would imagine it would be easier to just issue the rate notices standard. And
then the donation.
Yeah. But anyway, that's up to you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, the recommendation there, that Council 1 approve the draft donations and in-kind contribution policy being placed on public exhibition for a period of 42 days, inviting submissions from staff and the public in accordance with provisions of Section 160 of the Local Government Act 1993. And 2, note the draft donations and in-kind contribution guideline will be placed on public exhibition for the same period of time to invite submissions. And 3, request the General Manager presents a further report to Council with all submissions received at the conclusion of the public exhibition period for Council's further consideration and adoption of the policy. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. Item 10.3, the Main Street Renewal Project expenditure. We have moved and seconded for that. Move Councillor Diprose, seconded Councillor Frame.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This report relates to Councillor Diprose's notice of motion requesting information on the Main Street Renewal Project. So this information that's provided now has the summary of all of the grants that have gone into the Main Street and a description of the works that were required and put forward to the funding body and the grant amount. And then also it provides an expenditure by financial year as well. There's a couple of asterisks in there because, as I alluded to a couple of meetings ago, we're still in the process of going through preparing our financial statements, having them audited and having grant amounts adjusted. Whether or not one of the grants example is with Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development. We do have unexpended funds with the Bogalong Dam grant, just asking for that fund to be transferred within that round. And there's also considerations that some of the labour costs that we've journaled to this work order may need to be moved into the operating budget as well.
Comments again, Councillor Diprose?
I'd like to commend the GM for the report. It's succinct and thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Councillor Diprose.
So with the recommendation of the council is that council note the information contained. All those in favour? It's carried. Thank you. Item 10.4, the resolution register. We move a second for that. With Councillor Diprose, second to Councillor McKellar.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In relation to our resolution register, as I alluded to in our pre-briefing, I just wanted to thank our executive assistant for actually pulling the directors and myself to go through the resolution register and providing the council in its final meeting the most accurate status of where those outstanding resolutions are. Obviously, with this system that we've got in place now, it makes reporting to the new council a lot easier to carry those resolutions forward. Did anyone have any final parting words around the resolution register?
Councillor Diprose.
Yeah, just a few. Well done to getting the Cobb & Co. sign finalised. Looks great, I reckon. So thank you for that. And so that item can come off for the next meeting. I did have a question about the $15,000 for the Grow Grenfell Group, and I apologise, I didn't intend the briefing. Has that payment been made from the festival account to the Grow Grenfell Group?
Through you, Mr Mayor, no, it has not yet.
Okay.
So the President was waiting for us to give them the go-ahead because we're still trying to sort out the lights at the moment. So they wanted assurance that the buildings, that especially the council buildings, because they're the ones that had the hailstorm damage, and there is delay with whether or not we can go ahead and do the lighting works on our own buildings. So there is just a delay process there. But the resolution will remain.
Yep, okay. And yeah, just a detail, but I'll do my submission on the cyber security thing tomorrow. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay, councillors. So the recommendation is the council note the attached resolution register as at the 8th of August 2024. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. We've got a late report, I think, isn't it? So late report.
Accept the late report too.
So council will move the second to accept the late report. With Councillor Best, second to Councillor Diprose. All those in favour? It's carried. Thank you. The late report is 10.5 Henry Lawson Festival bank account. Would you like to speak to that?
We need to move in second and now for the report.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, we need to move in seconder for that report. Move Councillor McKellar, second to Councillor Kennard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for accepting the late report. The report basically outlines that Council has been operating the Weddin Shire Council Henry Lawson Festival of Arts account. So that's an account sitting with Bendigo Bank that's currently sitting outside our council ledger. So in terms of what we are proposing now, we've had discussions with the president of the Henry Lawson Festival around the need to make sure that council complies with the Local Government Act. I will publicly say that at the moment we are in breach of section 409 of the Local Government Act. And I will read it out because of the need to talk about the seriousness of the fact that we are in breach. So under section 409 of the Local Government Act, Council must have all money and property received by Council must be held in the Council's consolidated fund unless it is required to be held in the Council's trust fund. So as it stands now, the amount that's sitting in the bank, which is approximately, I think, $70,000, it's not reflected in our financial statements. It doesn't get audited. It doesn't sit on our within our consolidated fund. So that is a concern. It's a concern that we're currently in the preparations of our financial statements with our contractor, and it's been raised as a concern there and we will need to flag this also with our Audit Risk and Improvement Committee and then also with our auditors.
Any questions? Yep.
Councillor Howe.
Councillor Howe, you want to go first? Yep.
I attended the Henry Lawson Festival Committee meeting last night and this was discussed at length. And they passed a couple of motions that I'd just like to read out. The first one was that they agreed to upload financial documents as requested by Council for the audit purposes. That was not an issue at all. The second motion was that the committee requests that Council defer voting on the recommendation item 10.5 to enable the committee to fully understand the ramifications, and this would provide time for the committee to investigate a way forward. I also understand that they would like to come back to talk to Council as a committee and would welcome an opportunity to be able to do that. Having said all that, I do note that there are issues with breaches with the Local Government Act that really need to be fixed, and that's going to have to happen. But I would like to ask that Council continues to keep discussions going with the committee so that everybody is on the same page and we can work for a good resolution of the issue.
Councillor Dibros.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot. So would you propose an amendment to this, or how would you? I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No.
I attended the meeting last night too, and I think one of the main points was this has been an evolution.
Yes.
There's nothing in this where anybody's done anything deliberately wrong. No. It's just the way it's evolved over time, and I've done the history of this thing inside out, and I think. Well, my impression from the people there last night, they were sort of a bit shocked. This is not, because they just get it during the day and it comes in, it's like we've breached different sections of the Act, and there was actually a volunteer that last night that walked out and he's not coming back. So the volunteer is trying to do the best that they can, and I acknowledge the General Manager is doing the right thing to bring it forward to Council, but I just don't, it's a group of people that are really passionate about the town, and they want to run the festival, and they want to have time to consider the logistics of how this is going to work. So that's just some preface to...
Through you, Mr. Mayor, when we sent out the meeting invite, we sent it out to the info at Henry Lawson Festival. There could have been opportunity for the committee to attend. I acknowledge that. The second point of the recommendation is that delegate the General Manager to work with the Henry Lawson Festival of Art to close the Weddin Shire Council Henry Lawson Festival of Art account. We're trying to work with them. I acknowledge the timing issue at this point in time. As I alluded to in our pre-briefing, we are currently preparing our financial statements. So if we defer this matter, we will have to report this, and I do think that this will then end up in our management letter. Whereas at the moment, if we manage to have the funds transferred into council's account, it can then be captured in the 23-24. We can do those adjustments and actually have it correctly done, correctly documented down. We're in breach of the legislation. That's a hard and fast of it, and I'm very, very sorry, but the thing is, it's not just council staff, it's the council, it's the committee.
I'd just like to say that no one's pointing fingers here. I don't think
No.
it's just a breach that needs to be fixed, and I'm sure the general manager is happy to work through those issues after we fix this breach.
Yeah, and just for, I guess, everyone's awareness as well through you, Mr. Mayor, we did provide the President a transactions listing of what it would look like once the funds are transferred into the consolidated fund. It would have its own work order number that would be internally restricted for that purpose. The statement from authority looks exactly like a bank statement. It's got the income, it actually has a bit more because it actually shows what's committed. So if you are going to commission a service that you know it's going to cost you $20,000 and the first invoice is $10,000, it commits and restricts that extra $10,000 there. So it's actually probably more than what you would actually get with the bank statement. And we can provide that. We've said to the President in the meeting that the report can basically be run quite quickly. We can provide, they did request, we tend to meet more frequently towards the festival. It's automatically done within the system.
So,
Councillor McKellar.
is there any way that the Henry Lawson Festival can control their funds? Is there a step that they can do, become incorporated or something?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct. We also did have that discussion with the President around that if the Henry Lawson Festival Committee were to become incorporated, then the funds would be transferred to them, and that would be a council resolution to transfer those funds across.
Councillor Best.
To me, that's the most important thing. If they find a solution to it and they find another path forward that doesn't have us in breach, we could just transfer the funds back. The funds are basically being held in, I'm using the word held in trust, but it's not technically a trust, but it's been held in trust in council. Yep. And to me, when as Councillor Dipro said, this has been ongoing. We've been ordered how many times it's never been picked up, and we've been told on numerous occasions this is the right way to do it, this is the wrong way to do it. This is how it should be done. So to me, this is coming to a conclusion. We close the account. I fully support the recommendation. Close the account, and at any point they wish to open another account, and it won't affect their day-to-day running of the Henry Lawson Festival in any way. It just takes us off the breach, and we can and they can have a fresh start in a different direction.
Yeah.
If that's the case.
Through Mr. Mayor, if I can make a comment about auditing, you can only audit what you know. And the fact that staff haven't been a signatory on that account, and only very recently our Director of Corporate Services maybe became a signatory in the last 2 or 3 weeks, that's a concern that the General Manager of the Council is not a signatory to an account that's supposed to be belonging to Council. So by tidying it up, we actually have expedited processes. So around sponsorships, it's actually quite quick for our staff to actually run invoices once sponsors are actually put into the system. I acknowledge that it's the volunteers writing up these invoices and sending it out. They don't have the systems that we have. I got asked about the workload addition to staff. It doesn't add to our workload. We're already in the process. And I bring it back to, I love my example of a bag of cable ties. If a staff member goes down to Oliver's and gets a bag of cable ties, they've got to come back and do a requisition. It's all got to be documented down. You've got to have the receipt. You've got to raise it in authority. What's any different if you're doing a tax return, you're expected to keep your receipts for 7 years. So I just think that we have a committee of council that's operating separately to how we currently operate within our own system.
If I just make a final comment, when the review was done in 2020 or whatever it was, there was resistance from the staff to actually doing what's proposed now. So that's just the way it was. But it was always intended that account be audited. So let's just clarify it. Or the transactions be audited.
I'd just like to say too that I don't think it's in the new council's best interest to hand a breach over to them. I think it should be dealt with now. That's just my opinion. Councillors, so has everybody had a We'll have a vote on that. Councillors, all those in favour of accepting the recommendation there, the recommendation? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. So the recommendation is 1, note the information contained in the report. 2, delegate the General Manager to work with the Henry Lawson Festival of the Arts to close the Weddin Shire Council, the Henry Lawson Festival account, ending times 27852. 3, delegate the General Manager to include closing balance amount into its general fund and be reflected in the 2023-2024 financial statements. 4, delegate the General Manager to include all financial transactions into the 2023-2024 financial statements. And 5, delegate the General Manager to carry forward the closing balance amount in the new work order to the 24-25 financial year. Thank you, councillors. So now we move on. Maybe to Jan, I suppose.
Yeah. You've gone past it.
It's not there though, is it? 10.6.
Just
It is.
if you let Councillor Parlett know that.
Councillor Parlett, the recommendation was carried. Some very good discussion. I think we all agreed unanimously in the end. 10.6, again moving to second. This is
Accepted as a late
a
report.
late report. Councillor Diprose, second Councillor Frame. Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Okay, so item 10.6 is a community support application from the RSL sub-branch for Remembrance Day commemorative service. We're moving to second for that. Move Councillor Diprose, second Councillor McKellar. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to think that the amount of community support applications in this month's report justifies the need to have this draft donation policy and in-kind contribution policy adopted. But right now we're dealing with the Grenfell RSL sub-branch. They've put in a request to have traffic control services for the 2024 Grenfell Remembrance Day commemorative services up at Memorial Park. It's the standard application that they put in every year, and it's just recommending that there's a community support vote of approximately $1,000. We apologise that we did have to table it late.
Any discussion, councillors? All those in favour? It's carried. Thank you, councillors. So then we'll move on to item 11, the Corporate Services Report. 11.1, Weddin Shire Council, Crown Lands, Plan of Management, multiple reserves. We're moving to seconder for that. Move Councillor Parlett. Second, Councillor Best. Would you like to speak to that, John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll just present the Crown Lands Plan of Management, multiple reserves. The council has the responsibility to take over the function of managing the Crown Land reserves. So the background being there's a legislative change back in 2018 which required that councils manage Crown reserves and dedications as Crown Land Manager. So that's the first thing. So there's a legislative requirement to actually take that function over. By way of background, they were previously managed both by Crown Lands and Council under the previous legislation. And under the joint arrangements that were there, they've been now discarded. The new arrangement would be council having administrative responsibility of the management of the Crown reserves. So the first step was for council to undertake classification of the 29 reserves, which they have done. The second step was then to provide that information to Crown Lands for them to prepare a plan of management for all of those 29 reserves, which they're now calling natural areas or bushland. So the third step, which is here and now, which is for council to publicly notify, if it's endorsed, publicly notify and exhibit this plan of management under the Section 38 of the LG Act. So then the fourth step obviously would be to, if there are any substantive changes, then those need to be made. Any changes need to be substantive changes need to be made back to Crown Lands, who then will review it, and if they deem to accept it, then it comes back as a new policy, which then goes a new draft policy that then comes to a future council meeting. But if they're minor editorial formatting changes, etc., then basically that then gets accepted, and then council will council must then that gets accepted as policy. Now, in terms of for council going forwards, what that means, it's council will be responsible for that administration, so that which means they're merely making recommendations to the New South Wales Department of Industry, Crown Lands, which may or may not be accepted. Process does not permit council to sell any Crown land or even deal with land for the simple reason that it's not owned by council. Any possible future sales of Crown reserves are entirely a matter of Crown, not council. And once the plan of management is adopted by council, then council is the Crown land manager, as well as the ongoing manager of ongoing maintenance of the land and drafting, managing any licences or leases of the reserves which may arise. In terms of financial implications, while there's no direct financial or resource implications, that would still be funded by Crown Lands. I would imagine there'd be some additional administration maintenance activities. However, they are already there in terms of any changes or communications with Crown Lands as it is right now anyway. So because it was a joint arrangement. So so basically, in conclusion, that the recommendations the council agree to placing in the Weddin Shire Council Crown Reserve Plan of Management on public exhibition. Note that if no submissions are received, the Plan of Management is adopted in accordance with clause 70.70b, which requires the council manager to obtain written consent to the minister to adopt the Plan of Management. That's quite long, but yeah.
Is there any additional cost to council for managing this land?
Only from what I've just said. I'm not sure that there's...
Can I, through you, Mr. Mayor, look, we're already actually the Crown land manager for these. Yeah.
I was just wondering whether it was another cost shifting exercise.
Councillor Liberace.
To speak in favour of the motion. If I understood the directive properly and it having read... No, I will say too, it's wonderful that in this report is actually photographs and images, so you can actually easily work out. A previous report was just lots and DP numbers, which took me forever to work out. But anyway, it's nice to be able to see that. But two questions. There's one of these Crown reserves that has a significant impact on one of the local landholders. If I understood you correctly, once this is approved, that means that council could then negotiate with them to lease that land if that was what council chose to do. Is that what you're saying? I've been a bit cryptic with that because I don't identify the landholder. So if we are managing it, then we are able to negotiate the lease.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, do you mean a sublease? Because we are the Crown land manager. So are you talking about the Dramatic Society, a really good example?
No, it's a rural one.
But obviously that's a sublease situation. Is that what?
But we're not the council's not going to be the lessee. We are the manager. But it's I had the impression that the director was saying that council could, as manager, allow a lease on the land to someone if we so chose.
Yes, I think it says.
Sorry?
I do think it says in there we can lease.
It does.
This is something that's
Okay,
a
cool.
sublease.
That's good because if that can be done with this particular thing, that would solve a lot of problems. So anyway, the other thing, in my 8 years here, there's been 2 Aboriginal land claims that have been confirmed. One was to the south of Quandialla and another was near Bunbury. So I can see within these there's some land claims that have been lodged. My understanding is that they have a 10-year or thereabouts to be resolved. Are some of these fairly close to being finalised, do we know?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we'll have to take that one on notice. We don't know.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay. Councillor Best.
Oh, I only have a question. If someone's applying for a Crown land grant, does that bring the council into it more, or is it just a normal, continue the same Crown land grant process?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I think it's just continually the same process.
Yes,
When,
we're
yeah.
to get involved, So thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. So yeah, just to clarify in case it was confusing, we are joint managers right now, but we will be sole managers going forward of the plan. But so any sale it's still entirely up to them, but it is, yeah, in terms of the business part, it's silent on leasing, so yeah, we've discussed that.
Okay, well, the director's basically gone through the recommendation there, councillors. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. Item 11.2, community support application for the Cracken Country Club. We've got a move and a seconder. Move Councillor Parlett, seconded Councillor Frame. Want to speak to that one, Director?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you, Mr Mayor, would like to table the next community support application. So this would be the third one for tonight. And obviously, this is the same. This is from the Cracken Country Club. It's the same as what they've applied for last year as well, in terms of they're looking to for council to provide a in-kind donation here. So council, so cool room, bollards, orange, wedding to cordon off car parking and camping area, and some portaloos as well. So similar to last year, and so we could see it in there in terms of the second page, the financial implication there, and then you could see our budget, which we've got $25,000 that goes against there. So there's budget for it. So the conclusion is that council should support the request for the in-kind donation of the council cool room, bollards and orange wedding, along with 2 portaloos. Additional pending availability would be is important. So that'll come down to what we've got available, so we can at least provide it to assist the Cracken Country Club with their sheep racing event on the 14th of September 2024.
Councillor Best.
I'm happy to support it. We always have, it's a terrific event. I'm just wondering with the current closure of the Cracken tip out there, whether we should be including something, have they mentioned anything about the removal of rubbish or bins? No. Because that would be more difficult out there when the Cracken tip being closed at the moment, so whether we should
reach out, yeah.
Do we normally go out and empty the bins after the sheep races or not?
But they've got no tip.
The garbage truck goes out there once a week, so depending on what week it would be, so that if there was 2 40-litre bins, we could take the garbage truck down to the site and empty those. And we don't do that at the moment, but we could do that.
just going to go, you're going to have to bring it into town, that's all, so it'd be something we can just put on there.
I think if we can support them in any way, because this is, as Councillor Best said, a really good event, and it's something that the community does organise, and I think we need to keep getting behind them.
Through you, Mr Mayor, we're just proposing an amendment just for us to reach out on that rubbish situation.
Removal of rubbish is if required or something like that, that's all. It might just be an oversight, that's all.
Yeah.
They're probably just having the tip open, so we'll just, the committee amendments will just run down the tip sort of thing.
So it was moved by Councillor Best.
Second that.
Second, Councillor Parlett.
Thank you.
I'm not going to make a vote on the amendment,
So, all those in favour of that amendment, councillors? That's carried, so the amendment now becomes the motion. So, all in favour of the motion? That's carried. Thank you, councillors. You right with that, Liz? Yep. All good. Item 11.3, community support application for the Grenfell Jockey Club. Mover and seconder, Councillor Bitrose and Councillor Frame. Director, would you like to speak on item 11.3?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So through you, Mr Mayor, this application is again a similar one to last year for the Grenfell Jockey Club, requesting some in-kind support for their annual loaded dog race meeting on the 28th of September 2024, and they're looking to have council donate a bogey axle cool room and also 20 wheeler bins, bin liners and garbage collection. So the financial details are there, so it's the same amount as last year. So we've got $745 worth of in-kind. That fits within our budget, and so in conclusion, council, the recommendation is that council should support the in-kind donation of the council bogey axle pool room, 20 wheel bins, bin lighters and garbage collections to assist the Grenfell Jockey Club in cooperation with their annual loaded dog race meeting this 28th of September 2024.
Another great event. Any
Yeah.
comments, councillors?
I just agree with you. Another good community event, well run and very beneficial.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Councillors. Item 11.4, application and request for NAIDOC week.
Just wait for Councillor Pilot to leave the room.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yep. So we're moving the seconder. Move Councillor Dipro, second Councillor Frame. Would you like to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. So, through you, Mr Mayor, there's an application for a request from the Weddin NAIDOC committee to provide them with a donation of $1,000 from the NAIDOC vote. So I should say that vote has already been passed. It's in our annual financial annual plan. So the operational plan, I should say. So that's the first thing. The theme for this year is keeping the fires burning, so black, loud and proud across every generation. And so they propose to meet and have their NAIDOC week. Well, they are having their NAIDOC week event on the 27th of September in Taylor Park. Grenfell. So it'll be a similar process, similar celebration as last year, and the recommendation is that council should support the request for financial assistance to the Weddin NAIDOC committee to assist with their 2024 NAIDOC week celebrations in Taylor Park on the 27th of September. Council also notes it would be worthwhile to engage with the local elders of the Shire, in addition to working with the Weddin NAIDOC committee to promote and be involved with this celebration.
Very good. Councillor Dipro.
Yeah, happy to speak in favour of it. I have a fair bit to do with some of the members of this committee. They're passionate, enthusiastic, and that last year's event was pretty special, especially some of the dancing and that sort of stuff. So it's a good thing.
Any other comments? All those in favour?
Aye.
It's carried. Thank you, councillors. Did you get Councillor Parlett back?
The green and red light up the door.
Good idea. So we move on to 11.5, modern slavery risk assessment project update. Then moving to seconder, move Councillor Frame, second Councillor Howell. Would you like to speak to it? That one, John?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So through you, Mr Mayor, the modern slavery risk assessment project update is provided to council now. Council's seen the previous modern slavery assessment in a prior meeting. Since then, in December 2023, some guidance was provided in terms of what are reasonable steps that council should take to make sure that they're complying with the modern slavery legislation, the Modern Slavery Act 2021. That's the first thing. So that requires council takes reasonable steps to ensure that goods and services provided by council are not the product of modern slavery. That's quite difficult to do, and so therefore some guidance has been provided, which you'll see in the report. I won't go through it all in detail. There was some reporting that has been required from 1 January 2024 onwards, and that will go into the annual report this year. Other comments to make is that the resourcing required by councils to demonstrate the compliance with this legislative requirement is quite burdensome, and I think that was discussed last time as well. General managers in the region have been proactive about this, and they've proposed that a meeting be determined at the JO level to determine the progress each council's making, as well as to determine what further support is required. The JO is providing whatever support it can as well, and they're obviously steering that in terms of a response. They're also acting to advocate on council's behalf back to the Attorney General's Department with respect to through the Office's Anti-Slavery Commissioner, and basically saying that the message being it's not practical or achievable, or it reflects their poor understanding of councils and their suppliers as well, and how that operates. So at one level, if you've got major suppliers, they already have publicly available modern slavery statements, which we can rely on, but down to a granular level, that becomes quite difficult and burdensome. So we will no doubt have more information to provide to council in future at a future time. But at this stage, the legislation stands as it is, and it's having a significant impact, resourcing impact on councils. And as I said, the JO is both advocating and providing operational support for council to help minimise these impacts. So the recommendation is that council note that.
Okay. Any discussion, councillors? Okay, I'll put that to the meeting. All those in favour?
Comment there, like, it's just we can go through this again, but it's another example of them coming up with a great idea and leaving the council to hold the baby. It's honestly, they've come up with an anti-slavery commissioner. Well, their job should be to provide advice to the councils on which companies not to work with. But it'd be a simple solution. You tell us which ones have the biggest issue with slavery, and we could then deal with it and not deal with those companies. Anyway, I'm just saying, it's just there's a simpler solution, but why councils are always left to do all the hard work.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I can make a comment that we got the board meeting next week, so you might want to raise that.
We can do that.
You know, there's other solutions to it, and it's just left with councils to do it all.
The councillors, the recommendation there, all those in favour?
Aye.
That's carried, thank you. Move on to item 11.6, rates and charges collection for July 2024, sorry. We're going to move to a seconder. Councillor McKellar and Councillor Howe. Thank you. Director, would you like to...
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. So through you, Mr Mayor, I present the rates and charges collection report for the month of July, and this report is for noting. So the information is basically there in tabular form for you to have a look at. And essentially we've started the collections for July. That 88,000 is coming already. We have the amount levied for the 2024-25 year was 4.686 mil. And obviously that includes the pensioner concession amount of 132,000 as well. So that's total gross rates and charges was 4.8 mil, less the 132, coming back to the 4.686 mil. And of that, we have collected 88,350. That may have been prior year rates as well, but that's the total collection. So taking that down, we've still got obviously 5.07 mil to collect over the 2025 year, and so we'll have a rolling report card on our collections. I would like to add that obviously any uncollected rates is a cash flow burden on council. So but we also understand that there are often very good reasons, and so council is compassionate to anyone who is struggling. We'll continue to invite anyone to contact us, talk to us, and let's see if we can arrange a plan if you're having difficulty with that. I would also like to say that council's got additional staff resourcing now, and we are now in a position where we can start to focus on recovery of those debts further, and that obviously will involve that engagement with those that can't as well, that are having trouble. So certainly contact us. But in terms of debt recovery, that is a substantial amount of money. And in terms of the Office of Local Government, they will benchmark, we should be under 10% of our rates in terms of what's in arrears. We have been creeping up, that's continually going up to where it needs to be and where it was a few years ago. So we just need to keep getting back to where we were. And we will we will focus our attentions now in terms of doing that in-house rather than externally. I'm a big believer in terms of having that personal relationship with people, understanding what and why in terms of our process as well. And I think that's more effective, so we'll be doing that going forwards. And in terms of, so basically I'll commit that report for Council to note.
Any comments, councillors? All those in favour? Carried, thank you. And item 11.7, statement of bank balances and overdraft facility request. We're moving to seconder. Councillor Best, second Councillor Kamar.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So, through you, Mr Mayor. So we've got two things in this report. So the recommendation is the first one is for noting, and the second one is for approving some standing arrangements for a temporary overdraft to change to becoming a permanent overdraft facility until further notice, and to delegate the General Manager to enter into such an arrangement. I'll start with the bank balances. So as at 31st of July, they are again in a healthy position. So we've got 3.665 mil just in our operating Westpac account. We have $7 million in our CDA term deposits, and they can be seen on page 2. We've got about 8 term deposits there coming to your $7 million, and they're staggered in terms of when they come due, purposely to make sure that we've always got a rolling cash flow available for operational requirements as and when. We have further invested 2 term deposits into Westpac for a 3-month and a 6-month. I would like to note, and that's in table 2, and I would like to make a point that you can see the interest rates there, and if we look at like for like, the 3-month rate for Westpac is 5.18. The 3-month rate for Commonwealth is 4.7. So we are really focused on trying to make our money work as hard as we can, and we'll continue to do that as well and try and negotiate the best outcome for council, because as you know, the interest earned on those amounts is substantial over a period of time, and we need all we can get in terms of operational funds. So we moved to the unrestricted and restricted cash balances. So this is an important thing, and we will continue to provide that transparency going forward. We have a lot of that cash, as you can see, is restricted. So we've got, in terms of unexpended grants, so most of the money that comes in is tied to for a purpose and can't just be used for general revenue. So we've got 11.7 mil for restricted cash for unexpected grants. We have the sewer fund developer contributions remains at 102,000, and the sewer fund is 485,000. So total restricted cash 12.3 mil, leaving an unrestricted cash balance at the moment of 4.3 mil. Now that will come down over time until we get the next tranche of funds coming in, but essentially that will continue to go down because most of the tranches that are coming in will be restricted. So that's what we're going to have to monitor closely going forward. The second part of the report is with respect to the overdraft facility. We've been having further discussions with the bank regarding continuing this arrangement and therefore converting it into a permanent overdraft facility arrangement. I would note that we haven't drawn down on those. It's just a facility. And so and those discussions and the principle behind this is based on our expected cash flow projections through the 2025 year, and Council's belief that we may well need to draw on the overdraft at some stage during the financial year, and particularly, as I mentioned in the pre-briefing workshop, that a lot of the road funding at the moment and the way it's funded is quite substantial, but in terms of timeliness, it's not. It's lumpy for want of a better word, which requires more diligence with monitoring, but it also means that we may there's more risk, basically, and the higher risk of breaching any unrestricted cash. So we believe it's prudent to request the council to continue to have the facility available through the 2025 year until further notice for that reason. And what I've put into the report as well, and I'll read that out now for you as well, but each month we'll be reporting to council on this very report on the status of our cash, and before any funds are drawn, we'll inform council of any anticipated intentions. So that's namely the restricted cash balance and how that's going, and whether we do need to draw down on that to take us out of that restricted, position. That said, we don't contemplate this unforeseen event happening, but we don't have a crystal ball. Nobody does. We'd like to have the ability to remain, to be conservative and be proactive rather than reactive, and prepared to prevent such a circumstance occurring. We know for different reasons it occurred last year, but we want to make sure that we don't do that, because that's a serious, non-compliance, legislative non-compliance as well. So for that reason, we want to be conservative. We want to make sure, we recommend that council supports the General Manager approving the permanent overdraft facility from the current temporary overdraft arrangements until further notice. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any questions? Councillor Bibrose?
Good report, thank you. I think that's the first time we put money in another investment, as in Westpac. I think that's new, which I think is great, because it means that the existing banker sees that money is going elsewhere and recognises if they don't quote the right rates, our money is mobile. So well done with that, and it also spreads our risk. Just a commendation for that. Well done.
Yeah, very Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Bibrose. Yeah, thank you for that.
Councillor Best?
I think commenting the overdraft, I think it's a great idea. I think we've heard of other councils borrowing large sums of money just to make sure that they don't do the same situation. So I think the overdraft's a really good thing. Probably, I don't think last week with your report we could put a line on it there for the overdraft in it, so that when if we do come to the situation of using it, that we'll just have a line on there to report to it. That's all.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that, Councillor Best. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, councillors, all those in favour?
Yep. No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to item 12, infrastructure services report. Item 12.1, road maintenance council contract. Move and seconder. Move Councillor McKellar, seconder Councillor Frame. Would you like to speak to that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The RMCC work has been well planned for this year with Phil and his team. Currently, the Newell Highway, we started work on the S-bends, and on that highway we are planning 41.7 thousand square metres of heavy patching. On the Mid-Western Highway, which will follow, there's another 20.8 thousand square metres of patching happening. The work is being well coordinated with Transport New South Wales and their staff, with Phil and his team, and everyone's really happy with what's going on there, and we look forward to two good highways being delivered over the year.
Thank you. Any comments, councillors?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I can just make one comment, that our 23-24 financial claims that we have put in have been paid now, so we don't have the debtors from the situation that we had in the previous financial year.
Very good. Yes, all those in favour? Voting report, thank you. Carried. Item 11.2, infrastructure services report, August 2024. We move and seconder. Move Councillor McKellar, second Councillor Howe.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, our natural disaster work is continuing on. Good news is we're hoping to get package 2 and package 4 approved in the short term, which will help us attack some of the roads that are complained about. Package 3 is almost coming to a close, with works being planned on Henry Lawson Way going to Forbes. Marangal Road is now complete. And we're still waiting on approval on the package 5 and 7 works. Some of the programs for some upcoming works have already been scheduled for this year, and we're still working with that with the engineers. Pullabooka Road's going to happen in January 25. Greenthorpe Kurawatha is progressing very well and scheduled to be completed in September. The other works that are listed there are going to plan. Bogalong Dam had a meeting, and we're basically asked Public Works to give us a bit more information so the committee can make a more assessed judgment on what's going on there. Road maintenance works. The good thing is works have started on the Dodds Lane project, which incorporates Quandong and Lynch's Lane, which will open the bus route, which will make life a lot easier for those parents and ratepayers in that situation. All the typical maintenance work that's happening around the place, parks and gardens and town maintenance, village maintenance, is progressing as planned. Our plant for the month has had no major dramas, so they're just general servicing issues happening. Good news about our biosecurity. We've had a detailed audit held by the DPI, and our team passed very well, and very proud of them in that regard. Main Street update. We're waiting on some weather to improve, and we'll finish marking all the disabled parking in Main Street. And work is continuing and on the CCTV camera upgrades as planned. That's it for that one.
Oh, thank you. So the recommendation there, Council, is that we receive and note the information provided on infrastructure works completed in July 2024 and the planned works for August 2024. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you, Councillors.
Can I ask questions to you?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, yeah.
Have you ordered the skid steer and the profiler?
I beg your pardon?
Have you ordered the skid steer and the profiler?
Have I ordered it?
Yeah.
We're in the process of going through that, Councillor.
It's out to market. Mr. Mayor.
I noticed there was a tape course on it too, which is handy. Was that?
So we move on to item 12.3, Nowlands Road, the scoping of works. We'll move to the second. I move Councillor Biprose, second Councillor Best.
Oh,
you want to speak to that one? Yeah.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Look, Council received a grant a few years ago to do 21 kilometres of work on Nowlands Road. Our engineers found that after a bit of calculation that was impossible, and we proposed to reduce the scope of that work, mainly concentrating on the first 5.5 kilometre section from the Bimby end, which would capture two of the worst sections of that road, two mud holes, I'll call them, which will be fixed up. Our engineers have also met with the landholders, or 7 landholders in that area. We met at the hub and had a robust discussion with them, explaining what our reduced scope of work was, and that meeting resulted in them being in full support of Council's idea, and to keep the grant alive for us. recommend that, you give, delegate the General Manager to seek a variation for that work with Transport for New South Wales.
Councillor Diprose.
Yeah, at the invitation of one of the landholders, I attended that meeting. I'd like to commend the acting director on the way he conducted that. He's used the term robust in terms of the feedback. I'd call it full and frank. But it was, I think what was pretty special for me was how the director listened, and one of the actions in here was based on the feedback of one of the people that were there. It was interesting. I hadn't realised until that meeting just how much work some of the people in our community do. There was a lady there that is regularly pulling people out of bog holes, and that's the service that they provide to the community, which we as council, if we haven't got our roads right, that's what they have to do. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Any other comments, councillors?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll probably just make a comment that we made in the pre-briefing that once we apply to Transport for the variation and execute that as well, we obviously will write to, because we only wrote to the landholders on the road, we'll need to write to key stakeholders like the progress groups and then also National Park and Wildlife Services as well.
Sorry, can I throw in one other thing? I think what the director did really well was make it very clear that this money is not just there to be had. So they know that. And I'd also like to thank Michael Kemp for putting his hand up to be a contact for the acting director to keep that group informed.
Good work.
Just highlights how expensive it is to repair the roads.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just to go from $70 million up to $9 million worth. It's just the price has just gone through the roof.
Well, Council, the recommendation is 1, note the information contained in the report. 2, endorse the proposed variation to reduce the scope of works to 5.5 kilometres of roadworks, estimated at 3.4043 million, including the council contribution. And 3, delegate the General Manager to seek a variation with Transport for New South Wales. All those in favour?
Right.
It's carried. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Director. So we're on to item 13. Environmental Service Report, 13.1, the update on the Crackle and Quandiala waste facilities. We're going to move in a second for that. Move Councillor Frame, second Councillor McKellar. Would you like to speak on that one, Luke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So item 13.1, so the purpose of this report is just to provide an update to councillors and the community on the Quandiala and Crackle waste facilities. So I think last time the update, we said we had it scheduled to sort of remove some of the stockpiled steel at Quandiala. That's now been completed. So that was done by an asbestos removalist in conjunction with an occupational hygienist. So we essentially had to have our water cart there as well, with the cannon on the front of it. So we had to wash that all down and ensure that it was there was no asbestos on that to be able to remove it from the site. There was also air monitoring that was required to be undertaken as part of that process. Those results have been received, so there was no concerns about asbestos fibres leaving the site while that work was being undertaken. The asbestos removalists and the occupational hygienists are now just preparing a quotation to do the next stage at Quandiala, which will be, there's some piles of bonded and friable asbestos, so they've measured all that up and they'll be providing us hopefully with a quote reasonably soon to undertake that work to remove all that from the site. That will get it back to a point then that we have had discussions with the EPA around doing some soil testing to hopefully, if that all proves out, to look at that option of burying the rest of the contaminated soil or encapsulating it on site without the need to take it off site. So that's where Quandiala is. Based on all that, we've had a number of discussions with the EPA as well, so they haven't taken any further action in relation to that the draft prevention notice that they issued in relation to Quandi, so that's probably a good thing at this stage. So we're having regular meetings with the EPA. Things seem to be progressing fairly well at the moment, so hopefully that will continue. In terms of Carackable, the Drummuster site, so as I think previously advised to councillors and the community, we cleared an area up to the Drummuster site. That has now been, all the drums within the cage have been removed by the drum muster contractor. There is still a few there that weren't clean enough or suitable for taking away for recycling. So the next stage out there is we're going to continue around, and there's a large stockpile of tyres that have been, I suppose, over the years, and then when we done some clean up a few years ago, they're sort of left over. So we have talked to a contractor in relation to the disposal cost to get rid of all those, and we're just working with the occupational hygienist to get that site cleared, a clearance certificate, so we can get in there and load those and take them off site as well. So it will then be hopefully the same as Quandialla, so that we can do some soil testing, and then there's a bit of bonded asbestos to take off that site as well. And then once that's done, do some soil testing to see whether we can put our case forward to have that all encapsulated, the soil or any potentially contaminated soil on the site. So the community, obviously, in terms of the drum muster site, that's an important fundraising avenue for a local community group out there. So that's why we've sort of tried to get that bit done to start with, so they can get on there and get that off. They're also looking at whether they move that drum muster cage off the site so they can continue to use it somewhere else in Caracable while we're continuing with the clean-up. Both facilities will remain closed. So while we continue with that clean-up, as I said before, things are starting to progress now with our conversations with the EPA. So there was a large hold-up or a long hold-up to work out which direction we could go with that, but things seem to be progressing fairly quickly now, or not quickly, but well at the moment. So because of that reason, we haven't actually wrote to the Minister as per Council's previous resolution, but we have left that there in case things sort of deteriorate or break down, that we can write to the Minister, but based on I suppose the good feedback that we're getting from the EPA, and they're helping us and even sort of directing us in potentially some funding that may be available, we thought we would leave that at this point in time. So there's a recommendation there just to make that report, Mr Mayor.
Any comments, councillors? Questions? Councillor Best?
Just a question through the director is there a jumping issue? Is it quite down? Dumping?
Through you, Mr Mayor, we've had a couple of cases at Caracable, some mattresses, and there was some builders' waste around, which we've been out and we've picked up some of the mattresses. At Quandialla, there was still a large amount, probably hasn't since last time we reported, not a significant increase. We've actually tied in some of that up when they were out there. They've sort of tried to windrow some of that rubbish just so we could get a gauge of what the amount of rubbish that we're going to have to take off site. So what we are doing is we're just waiting on from a local contractor is a quote to extend the fencing. We've got an EPA grant for that. So as soon as we get the asbestos cleaned up so they can get in there and have safe access, we'll be able to hopefully do that fencing, which will restrict access even further.
Another question was just, if we do manage to be able to encapsulate it on site, do you have any feeling we'll have to put a clean fill on top of it?
There are some requirements around fill. Now, I suppose that's why we're doing the soil testing. Mm-hmm. If it comes back, they're worried about compaction rates. I don't really get that, but we said, well, look, we'll do it. So if the soil testing comes back that it's suitable where we can actually potentially dig a hole and put that in there and then use the stuff on site to encapsulate it. If we have to try and find some stuff and import it, obviously fill's hard to get at the moment. But
that's probably what we're getting to. It's to make that discussion with the community out there, because there may be some farmers that have putting a new dam in or something like that, whether we can actually use that fill to then cap it off might be just some.
If it gets to that point, our main aim would be is if we can sort of start, if we can excavate, push it in and then cover. That might be a case of us clearing some areas to say, look, that doesn't have contamination. We can use some of that as the capping material out there. But even guys, when our roads guys are doing some road works and all those types of things, clearing out table drains, anything like that, we can sort of sometimes utilise too.
Just the,
Just a further comment in terms of the dumping, I understand there was an enterprising person in the west of the Shire that was offering on a paid basis to get rid of rubbish, and the landholder found that their 20-foot well was full. So,
Okay, so any other questions, councillors? So the recommendation there, all those in favour? Carried, thank you. We'll move on to item 13.2, the non-potable water system. Can we get a move and a seconder? Obviously moved Councillor Best, seconded Councillor McKellar.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So yeah, Councillor Best raised this a little while ago in terms of a potential non-potable water supply, particularly during for use by council and community members, particularly during drought periods. That was based on obviously some of the fairly severe water restrictions we had during the last drought. So the intention of this report was just to provide a high level sort of overview of what some of the requirements would be for council to set up a non-potable water supply. It does get a little bit complicated. You wouldn't think it'd be that complicated, but it shouldn't be, but there is. So I mean, look, I won't go right through that step by step, but it's in the report there. But essentially, council, there's an approval process that council has to go through, or council would have to go through to install a bore. There's also an approval process, essentially, if we wanted to sell that water off, whether we wanted to use it and sell some of it. Now, based on my discussions with the department, there is a range of different approvals depending on the situation. It can get even as complicated as you can go through all this process, set it all up, and then you have to go to the water market and then pay the rate at the time. So we don't know whether that's per kilolitre or whatever it may be, and then you've got to find someone that's willing to sell you the water that you want to use. So there are some avenues for certain situations which may not need you to go there, but then there's checks and balances around which aquifer you're taking the water out of, a whole range of different things. So it gives you a brief sort of overview of some of the costs for that application process. Obviously, if we wanted to go to the next stage around the location of the bore, how deep it is, that's all going to impact on the overall cost to council to get that set up. The resolution also talked about sort of looking at collaborating with Central Tablelands Water. So I have talked to them in relation to that. The feedback that I got is that they don't have any plans to, or they're not looking at a non-potable water supply for Grenfell at this stage. They're more focusing on their potable water supplies and making sure that they're insured as best they can. So they have done a fair bit of work from what I've been advised since the last drought about bringing in some supplementary supplies into their system, which would hopefully allow us to fare a bit better during the next drought period. And obviously the bores at Goolagong help Grenfell out. Now, the advice was we never got to, we never exceeded their allocations during the last drought. And then on top of that, if they ever did get close to that, they can apply for emergency allocations in certain situations during drought periods. But that on top of the other allocations that they've brought into their system probably puts them in better stead than they were during the last drought. But in saying that, certainly I agree with Councillor Best that during drought periods, it's if a non-potable water supply could provide water cheaper to our farmers for stock and those types of things rather than paying for potable water, it certainly would be a good avenue. So I suppose this is just an overview, just to see whether, for council to note and see whether council wants to sort of go to the next step to do further investigations around potentially setting something up.
Any questions? Councillor Dipper?
That's a great report. I just hadn't realised how much was involved. But from my perspective, I think that's enough. As in, we're now informed, and if the next council wants to pick it up and run with it, good luck. Good on them.
Councillor Best?
Oh, similar to Phil. Oops. It's a great report. Thank you very much. I think this is a great starting point. I don't want to shelve the whole idea. I think it's like everything. These things aren't important until we're in the middle of a very bad drought. And when you're in the middle of a bad drought, and I have concerns about the reused water coming from the new sewage plant, that we won't have as much reuse as we had previously, and that will really restrict what we can put in our parks and gardens during times of drought. And I think having a community with green spaces is super important during drought. When you're a farming kid and you're living in a property that's a dust bowl around you, being able to come to town and have Taylor Park nice and green, or the swimming pool area park nice and green, or even the schools themselves having green places for kids to play, I think that's super important. And this to me was just, in times when water's scarce, we shouldn't be pouring drinkable water onto our gardens and things like that. And I think if there's an alternative, that we can find an alternative solution where in those times we'll accept stock water. When you see farmers purchase, they have to purchase their water. They've got to keep their core stock alive. They're purchasing drinking water. So I still think it's something we should continue the process with, and see if we can come up with some solutions, because there are different, as you pointed out, there's lots of different things that could happen. So I think it's just something I'd like to just chip away at, but like I said, it becomes super important when we're in the middle of a really bad drought. So
that's through you, Mr. Mayor, another important point which was raised by Councillor Best previously is that there's a lot of funding for water supplies, but it's all for potable water supplies. So you would think that the state government or federal government would look at this, particularly allowing that if you can take some of the pressure off the potable water supply during the drought, that it'd be a win-win. But that doesn't seem to be the case at the moment. And we did have a talk to Steph Cook a little while ago, who was fully supportive of that idea. So.
Councillor Keller.
I'd just like to commend the Director on the report, and also I think it's a great starting point for the next council to take it and progress it, because water, Grenfell without water would be nothing. We need secure water, and our parks and gardens are very important, and I think it should be progressed.
Also makes it a more attractive place to come and live.
Yeah.
If you've got water, and people know you've got water, even in times of drought, well then that's an attractive thing to come to, I think.
It's a case of being shovel ready before we're in drought.
Yes.
Very important.
Good.
Anything else? All right, councillors, the recommendation there, all those in favour?
Aye.
It's carried, thank you. Thanks, Luke, that was a great report. Item 13.3, development applications, construction certificates and complying development certificates. We move into a seconder. Don't need one, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's just a list of all the development applications and the construction certificate that was issued during the month of July, just for council noting.
Very good. So item 14, we've got delegates' reports, which is nil. Item 15, minutes of the committee meetings. We've got item 15.1, council committee report requiring action, minutes of the Bogalong Dam Precinct Committee meeting held on 24th of June 2024 and the 1st of August 2024. Someone like to move and second that we accept, otherwise dealt with, the minutes of the Bogalong Dam Precinct Committee meetings. Moved Councillor McKellar. Seconded Councillor Kanar. All those in favour? It's carried. Thank you, councillors. So we move on to item 16, closed council. So the reason we're going into closed council is item 16.1 and 16.2. These matters are considered to be confidential under section 10A2-D1, and D1 and D2 of the Local Government Act 1993, and Council is satisfied that discussion of this matter in an open meeting would on balance be contrary to the public interest, as it deals with commercial information of a confidential nature that would, if disclosed, prejudice the commercial position of the person who supplied it, and information that would, if disclosed, confer a commercial advantage on a competitor of the Council. Item 16.3, net waste tender for the collection of recycled and used mattresses. This matter is considered to be confidential under section 10A2-C and D1 of the Local Government Act 1993, and Council is satisfied that discussion of this matter in an open meeting would on balance be contrary to the public interest, as it deals with information that would, if disclosed, confer a commercial advantage on a person with whom the Council is conducting or proposed to conduct business, and commercial information of a confidential nature that would, if disclosed, prejudice the commercial position of the person who supplied it. Item 16.4, Merrill Minute, the General Manager's Annual Performance Review. This matter is considered to be confidential under Section 10A2 of the Local Government Act 1993, and Council is satisfied that discussion of this matter in an open meeting would, on balance, be contrary to the public interest, as it deals with personal matters concerning particular individuals other than councillors. Item 16.5, Code of Conduct Complaint, Final Investigation Report. This matter is considered to be confidential under Section 10A2-1 of the Local Government Act 1993, and Council is satisfied that discussion of this matter in an open meeting would, on balance, be contrary to the public interest, as it deals with alleged contraventions of any Code of Conduct requirements applicable under Section 440. So would someone like to move? We go into closed council. Councillor Carr, secondly Councillor McKellar. All those in favour? Aye. It's carried. Thank you, councillors. Okay. Welcome back, everybody. We've got our report on closed council, item 16.1, variation to the RFT 33, 2023, provision of sealing services state roads. Resolution 18724, moved Councillor Keller, seconded Councillor Kanar. That one, council note the information contained in this report. 2, council approves the contract variation to increase the allocated quantity of bitumen sealing works for RFT 33 2023 to an additional 35,000 metres squared. And 3, council delegate the general manager to enter into contract variation agreements with all approved suppliers. Item 16.2, variation to RFT 34 2023, provision of stabilisation of regional roads. Resolution 188-24, moved Councillor Frame, second Councillor Keller. That council note the information contained in this report. Council approves the contract variation to increase the allocated quantity of stabilisation of works of RFT 34 2023 to an additional 35,000 square metres. And 3, council delegate the general manager to enter into contract variation agreements with all approved suppliers. Item 16.3, net waste tender for the collection and recycle of used mattresses. Resolution 189-24, moved Councillor Frame, seconded Councillor Howell. That 1, council note the report on the evaluation of tender submissions for the collection and recycling of used mattresses. 2, council endorse net waste tender F4121 for the collection and recycling of used mattresses, being awarded to JLW Pty Ltd for their tendered price as set out in this report for the initial 2-year term, with the option of 2 12 by 12 month available extensions. 3, council note that as the existing contract expiry date of 2020 has surpassed, a new contract start date for the 2-year term will be advised by Net Waste upon endorsement from the Net Waste Steering Committee and then accepted by the host Orange City Council via a council meeting. And 4, the General Manager be authorised to execute the contract and apply the council seal on the relevant documentation for the collection and recycling of used mattresses. Was carried. Item 16.4, Merrill Minute, General Manager's Annual Performance Review. Resolution 190-24, moved Councillor Kanar, seconded Councillor McKellar. That council 1, note and receive the Merrill Minute. 2, note and endorse the General Manager's Annual Performance Review for the 2023-24 period, which includes a better than satisfactory score by the General Manager's Review Committee. 3, note and endorse the General Manager's Review Committee's recommendation for the General Manager's discretionary annual increase in salary by 4%. And 4, approve the General Manager's performance agreement for 2004-2025. Carried. Item 16.5, Code of Conduct Complaint, Final Investigation Report. Resolution 191-24, moved Councillor Kanar, seconded Councillor Howell. That council note and consider Councillor Cook's submission in relation to the final investigation report. 2, under section 440G of the Local Government Act 1993 and under the provisions of 7.37C, 7.46, 7.58C and 7.59 of the procedures for the administration of the Code of Conduct, officially and formally censure Councillor Michelle Cook for conduct in relation to the lodgement of 2 council expense claim forms, the first being on the 13th of January 2023 and the second on the 25th of September 2023, seeking a reimbursement of legal fees which were found to be in contravention of the following clauses of the Code of Conduct as determined by the independent investigator. Bar 3, General Conduct Obligations. 3.1, you must not conduct yourself in a matter that A, is likely to bring council or other council officials into disrepute, B, is contrary to statutory requirements of the council's administrative requirements or policies, C, is improper or unethical, D, is an abuse of power, E, causes, compromises or involves intimidation or verbal abuse, F, involves the misuse of the position to obtain a private benefit, G, constitutes harassment or bullying behaviour under this code or is unlawfully discriminatory. 3.2. You must act lawfully and honestly and exercise a reasonable degree of care and diligence in carrying out your functions under the LGA or any other act, section 439. The independent investigator found that the councillor expense claim forms were lodged by Councillor Cook, and Councillor Cook made demands for the payment of her legal fees with the threat of taking legal action against council, despite 1, not having obtained a council resolution prior to the said legal fees being incurred, and in accordance with section 8 of council's council expenses and facilities policy. 2, having been previously advised that the process pursuant to councillor expense and facility policies had not been followed. And 3, some of the amounts quoted for reimbursement being purported to be for legal costs incurred with respect to a code of conduct complaint, yet were incurred apparently for other matters. The independent investigator found that Councillor Cook's actions were overbearing, threatening, misleading and deceptive in light of her insistent demands and forceful and misleading approaches to the General Manager and the Mayor regarding recovery of her legal fees. 3, refer the matter to the Office of Local Government for further action under the misconduct provisions of the Local Government Act 1993. And 4, immediate release be issued by the Mayor advising of the official and formal censure of Councillor Michelle Cook in accordance with the above censure resolution, and that the matter has been referred to the Office of Local Government for further action under the misconduct provisions of the Local Government Act 1993. There was a division called, and voted for was Councillor Benbrick, Councillor Best, Councillor Kanar, Councillor Howell, Councillor McKellar and Councillor Frame, and Councillor Diprose was against. And that is it. Thank you, councillors. I would just like to say thank you to everyone, especially the councillors that have stepped up in this hard time towards the end, towards the start of this process. And a special thanks to Councillor Best for being a deputy and stepping in and doing a great job when I was unavailable. I'd also like to really thank the staff. I think the staff have been phenomenal in the past 3 years. I think all the new staff that have come in the last 3 years have been absolutely fantastic. The General Manager should be commended for hiring such great staff. I'd like to thank Anthony for coming and stepping in. He's been an absolute godsend. I wish he'd stayed, but I don't think he's going to. Luke, obviously, you have done another stellar job and always seem to do a stellar job. Thanks, mate. John's not here to thank, but I'd like to thank him as well. And all the other staff in the office and the outdoor staff have all been fantastic in the last 3 years. I think I'd like to congratulate the members of the public that have actually put their hands up to stand for council in the next term. I'd like to wish them the best of luck. There's some exciting things obviously going to happen in the future with the Taylor Park upgrade and the Festoon lighting going in and the new toilets and cemetery and lots of other little things that are going to happen in the near future. I'd like to wish them all the best with all those endeavours in the future. And once again, I'd like to thank the councillors so much for your help. And Noreen, you've been an absolute godsend to council and to me. You made my job so easy. And to Liz, thank you so much for your help as well. So I'm not sure if... Jason, did you say you wanted to say a few words?
No, I'm good, thanks.
All good. Any other councillors that are retiring would like to say a few words?
Thank you, Craig, for your leadership during the last council term. We've had some difficulties, but we've got there in the end. So.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, councillors.
I've got a few comments.
8 years. So 8 years. When I stood, I intended to do 2 terms, so I've done that. But just pointing out some things, I'd like to think that our policies are better, thanks to my input. I'd like to thank the staff. It's been brilliant to work with you all. I get a bit of a buzz to think that there's 300 de-sexed cats in the Shire, thanks to that project that I found somewhere. I think my quirkiest motion that I moved was to do with the medical centre when we were under budget, and it was for council to acquire 2 ambidextrous dental chairs, which is quite out there. I'd especially like to thank the progress groups in the villages. I've been to many of their meetings and they're very special places and they welcome our input. My scariest moment, I think, was with Craig, Paul, myself, after the reduction in councillors, where we were down to a quorum of 5, and for various reasons we had just 3 of us, so which was an emergency extraordinary meeting, which is pretty out there. Connected with that, I would like to acknowledge Roma Sinclair, who, when I stood for council, I asked her what she thought about me standing. She said, I think you'd be okay, but she said, do not resign. That was very, very clear. So thank you for that. I'd like to acknowledge Jan Parlett, who I call the peacemaker. She's been amazing, but most importantly, I want to thank my wife, Jan. So, thank you.
Well said, Phil. Anybody else? I'd also like to thank my wife, Kelly. I was probably remiss, I didn't mention that. She has put up with a lot in the last 8 years, and probably the previous 30 years to that as well. But the last 8 years have been fairly turbulent. So anyway, we've had some great times as councillors, and once again, I'd like to thank you, Nora.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I will say thanks, Craig. Thank you very much for your leadership. It's been good. You had to juggle a lot of things with your work. That was really, I know that was really difficult for you. And you've done a really good job of stepping in when we needed you. Thank you very much. And same as Councillor Diprose and Stuart, 2 terms with you. Thank you very much for all the work you've done. We had some good times and some not so good ones. So it's been appreciated. Your input is really good. It's been really good. And same as you, Jean. Sorry, I didn't forget you. You've been on there for 3 terms with me. So you might be coming back, but same as you. Thank you very much, Jason. A breath of fresh air coming into the last 3 years. So thank you. That's all.
If I can say, I'll say something and then you can say the final word. I just want to actually just thank the whole of council. I think when I started in July 2022, I acknowledged that there was obviously some governance issues that had previously happened. We don't need to rehash that, but I do think we have generally worked very, very well together as a team. We've done these policies. We've really looked at strategic focuses for the Shire, and I do think that there, as the Mayor alluded to, some exciting projects to still come because of decisions that this current council has made. And I really sincerely thank the Mayor particularly for his support. There's been lots of phone calls and conversations that we've had over this time, and I really do believe that we've done this together.
Finally, I have thanked all the committee members who put their hand up to run for council, but I'd especially like to thank the councillors that are here now that have actually put their hands up again to run again. Congratulations and thank you very much for putting your hands up again. That's a great, especially the ones that have been here for 3 terms already and going for their 4th. It's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's great community spirit, and thank you very much, Jan and Paul. And obviously, Councillor Frame and Councillor Howe for putting your hands up again. It's fantastic. Thank you so much.
I just would like to say how much I've enjoyed this term and how much respect goes out to those councillors who've run for multiple terms, and thank them for their wisdom and input. And congratulations for those people who've nominated, and I just implore them to just concentrate on the important stuff. Don't get distracted by the small stuff, and you'll be great. You'll be fine. So, and thank you, Craig. Thank you for your mentorship.
You're welcome. Thank you. On that note, would someone like to move that we close this meeting? Move, Councillor Biprose. Excellent. You want you to do it. Second, Councillor Keller. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you, councillors. Good luck next term. Thank you.